guns and bring your friends. It's fun to lose and to pretend she's overboard and self-assured. Oh no, I know a dirty word. Hello.
Peter said Ethan Nordean was the undisputed leader of the group that day as they tried to prevent the peaceful transfer of power.
An FBI agents arrested Proud Boys former national chairman Enrique Tarrio at this home in Miami. By 2 this afternoon, he was in federal court.
Here we are now, entertain us. I feel stupid and contagious. Here we are now, entertain us. I feel stupid and contagious. Here we are now, entertain us.
And we're live. Wow, that intro gets me going every single time.
I can imagine.
Welcome. Welcome, everybody, to the first episode of Real Man Talk Show with me, your host, Ethan Nordean. Today, I have a guest, Barry Ramey, my boy in Miami, has joined me to talk about some cool stuff. That intro is actually perfect for this topic because, you know, we brush on it here and there over the last a couple of years or so. The history of the Proud Boys, why we were effective the way we were, how we kind of came into this scene, and how things are different now than they were back then. And a lot of people are wondering where we are and, you know, why we aren't out there, because Antifa's still going at it, especially in places like Portland. I mean, pretty much all over. You're seeing it. I mean, I know you see it, Barry.
Yeah.
Kind of dealing with the rough and tough.
Definitely have. You got the no kings thing, but you don't have that 2020 vibe element. You don't have, I mean, at least in Florida, as you never really did, but you know, you're seeing it in New Jersey now, and you're seeing it in Portland still. But you know, like if there's the dichotomy of the left is, I think, shifted as well, because I don't know, when you were out there stomping around on their asses, did you have a jolly good ginger? Was he a thing back then?
Jolly Good Ginger. I can't recall that.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? I was just thinking about this today, you know, because Biggs posted a picture of us. I think it was yesterday. It was a pretty cool picture. And it was like celebrating, you know, June is the month of like American Pride instead of like, you know, Pride Month, Gay Month and stuff like that. And the amount of like triggering that happened when that they posted, everybody was like, you guys are a bunch of homophobes. Look, you get white trash. And I'm like, you know what's funny is like is we've gotten this reputation of being homophobes by beating up Antifa. So what does that tell you? Is Antifa all gay? Are they gay? Like, I don't think. I mean, we all obviously call them gay, and we've had interactions with them, and there are a lot of them that are definitely gay, but it's never really been a topic. Are they like totally? Are they like actually all gay?
Well, I think they're allies for the community no matter what. So they see themselves as the grandstanding security force for the LGBTQ elemental plus community.
Yeah, and I've always noticed the attacks that come from these people on the left, specifically Antifa, if they talk at all, is it's always like towards your masculinity. Like, oh, you think you're so tough? I'm like, yeah, I do think I'm tough. And you think, oh, you think you're so badass? Are you compensating? And I find that that's something that gay people always do to attack straight people, is like try to attack your masculine pride, like make you feel insignificant or like an insult. Like that's their favorite thing to do. And it's just, it's so overused. And I'm noticing a common denominator between the communities, the gay community and Antifa talk identical. So
that
I don't know,
maybe that Marxist twang. You know, it's weird because you've seen this shift. I think there's another battleground that we don't give ourselves, we being the right, enough credit for. Back during the censorship days under the Biden administration and during Trump, you couldn't say a thing wrong about some fucking queer, or else you were a bigot. You were the worst thing in the world. Now, when you trigger the left, which is like every day, they throw homophobic fucking shit at you. They'll call you a gay, queer, a tranny fucker, all that shit. I just don't know where did that shift? How did they
Where
go
does
from
it
being
stop and where does
champions?
it begin? You know,
I
where
mean,
does the
thanks.
protection for these people start? You know what I mean? Like they're so protective, but then they'll call me, you know, a closet homosexual. Like, ooh, it's like, oh, what if I am gay? You
Yeah, well,
know?
they finally agree that being gay is an insult. We've been saying this for fucking years. Thanks for
Yeah.
catching up.
And
Glad we can joke about these things because it is fucking weird.
you know what's a funny joke that I just heard today? It was like, do gay people call their gay friends straight to make fun of them? And is it as funny as us calling our straight friends gay? Like, I don't think
That's
so.
a good, yeah, that's a
I
good
wonder if they'd be like, "Oh,
question.
you're so straight." No, I'm not. Like, you know,
Yeah,
it's so,
I've got a couple friends that are police officers, and they say whenever they have to respond to a homosexual domestic dispute, it's fucking war. They're
yeah.
terrible.
Yeah. So let's get back onto back. I joined the Proud Boys in 2017, and it pretty much sparked almost immediately a higher involvement just because of everything going on, the climate, you know, with political climate back then. There's a lot of rioting, a lot of stuff going on college campuses, and you know, for those who don't know, I'm from Seattle area, so that's where I started up. And between Seattle, Portland, and Berkeley, we had our hands full. I mean, it seemed like almost twice a month we were doing these rallies, and a lot of people misinterpret, or I guess have been lied to about what our function was really laid out to be, why we were out there. Um, and most of the time we were asked to come. We've been asked to come by Latinos for Trump, all sorts of different groups and races and political ideologies that, you know, whatever their stance is, as long as it's something that's like not totally morally against what we're for. Like, you know, I'm pro-life, so I'm not going to go to a pro-choice event necessarily just because just morally that's not what I stand for. But if it's something that's, you know, falls within even something that I don't really care much about or that I don't align myself with, and they need protection, back then we would have been there. And that's, you know, and we did it for free. And the great thing about our club is we had guys literally all over the world, you know, and especially over this country. And so if we called on our guys, said, hey, you know, we got this event going on in California, even if it's a week's notice, you know, we had guys flying from all over the country, sometimes different parts of the world to be there. And we would basically provide free security. I mean, upwards of anywhere from 100 to a couple thousand people on the ground. And, you know, when you combine a very violent, unstable group like Antifa, and you throw that in the mix of a bunch of big, you know, corn-fed, blue-collar type dudes, that's where you get a lot of what you saw. A lot of those videos, a lot of videos I was in that, you know, I'm known for, and a lot of people, you know, saw circulated on the internet, that's how we came to, and that's why we're so effective, is because we were answering the call that nobody else was at the time. And it's not to, you know, boast or put ourselves in a position of, you know, we're better than anybody. It's just, because it was so unknown at the time. I think a lot of more people would have been involved if they would have known. So it's not necessarily if you weren't involved, you weren't cool or anything, but it's just, it speaks to the spirit of a lot of men that are feeling some type of way about everything going on that just showed up. We didn't have a plan really necessarily. We didn't know what to expect, but we knew that there was a problem and nobody was doing anything about it. I mean, politicians were talking about it. The cops were told to stand down. And that kind of developed this, I really believe, that spark in MAGA that started is groups like ours. There's other groups as well and individuals, but really sparked that reignited that spirit of like, hey, we're not all gone. Trump getting elected was a big part of that. And then the reinvoking of that 1776 spirit really rose when you started to see people take action in the streets. Now, is that as applicable now? I would say definitely depends on the situation, but for the most part, no. For the
Right.
most part, no. Mostly because everybody knows who we are now. And if we like drop a can of, Coke can on the ground, we're serving a year in prison. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
they are
Ask us how
very,
we know.
yeah, I'm speaking from experience here.
Yeah.
They don't very much like when we show up, especially in certain areas. So you gotta weigh out, being involved with being effective. And, sometimes you get people going out there making a bunch of noise, creating a bunch of problems. And yes, maybe their heart's in the right place, but it really is just putting themselves at high risk and anybody else following them if it's not planned out right. I mean, you can speak to that. I mean, there's tons of examples. And since you've been out in the last year at some of these events, have you seen some people more on the right kind of with that amateurish vibe trying to get out there and be loud and watch how it completely fails?
Very little. I mean, even on the left, I don't see it like it used to be. But no, very little. I mean, if you're talking about some of these people that are traveling around and making an ass of themselves and a lot of other people while they do it, I think that's different. But like,
Yeah,
there are individuals going, out there that are doing things that I don't agree with, and I know that the MAGA community doesn't agree with it, and but what I like the most is nobody's really taking the bait so far, and I'm really glad to see that. Just real quick, I want to zone home out on what you just said and zone in on that for a second because I was having this conversation with some of the guys at my church not too long ago. Some of them felt some kind of way about the Proud Boys, yet they were conservative, and I don't blame them for that, considering the bastardization we've received from the media. But what I try to put in perspective for them is the Proud Boys were not born out of the violence of the left or the manipulation of the media on the left. We were born because of the weakness of the right.
yeah,
Because nobody was standing up to transgender studies for kindergartners across the country. None of the churches and the men of the churches were doing anything about the rioting and the looting. There was a group of sinners that were less than fucking perfect that did do something about it.
yeah.
So that's just a reminder. The left didn't create us; the right did.
Absolutely. And I would say this that anybody who comes out looking spotless and it has no problems with them and they say all the right things, and I would be weariest with them because nobody's perfect, and anybody who has the grit and the courage to really get out there and do the right thing usually has the life experience that isn't as clean as people would like. The kind of person has the courage and the grit and the wherewithal to go out into this climate and to be an effective leader is somebody who just has a lot of life experience, and you only get that by kind of being in the trenches.
Yeah.
And it's a really good way to kind of put how Proud Boys are. We're blue collar Americans. We're hard
Yep.
workers. We cuss, we drink, we hang out, we make fun of each other, we call each other names. We don't care what you think of us. At the end of the day, we're not here to be remembered as being nice. You know what I mean? We're protectors. And at this day and age, you can't afford to like spend your whole life trying to be liked. Because there's a lot of people out there that I don't care if they like me. In fact, most of these people I would consider my enemies. And because at the end of the day, for me, my standard is if it's affecting the children in any way, our children, in this country or anywhere, in a negative way, leading them astray, leading them down a bad path, then I'm avidly against it, unapologetically. There's no give. I'm not giving an inch here. Well, it doesn't affect me, so why should I? No, you know what I mean? It's not always about if it affects me. Does it affect our kids? Is what they're being taught in school gonna mess their heads up? You know what I mean? And that's where, you saw a lot of our pushback. We weren't willing to give up on those things. And I find a lot of people don't agree with our stance because what it did is it created an uncomfortable environment. But if we're being honest, uncomfortable is where we need to be comfortable. We need to get comfortable being uncomfortable. We need to not just be aligned with a politician just because he says the right things and not be able to question him. Like Trump is a great example. Like I hope that he continues to do good for us. And this war is a problem. The gas price is a problem. There's a lot of problems that are really affecting our country right now, and I'm critical of those things. And I'm going to be critical of anything that any leader does because they're our leader. We're supposed to be critical. But anybody it's like joins this cult of just you cannot be critical of anybody or anything. I don't really want to spend too much time trying to convince those people because that's like a religion. You can't get people out of that.
Yeah,
And
all politicians are rental cars, man. That you rent them to do a job. That's
yeah,
it. They're a tool that you rent, and when they're done performing that job, you get another one, and that's all they are. They're a temporary thing. They're not this permanent fix to anything. And I do agree with you. We've gotten to a state where we put our leaders on these pedestals that don't belong. And I'm not even really talking about Trump, but it applies to him too.
yeah. And this weaponization fund that has been brought up, and then dropped again. And as far as I can tell, these Republican leaders are the reason why it's getting dropped.
When are they not?
And it really goes to show we can all agree as far as MAGA goes. I was just listening to Owen Shroyer about this. He's like, we can all agree, speaking to our right-wing MAGA conservatives, that the election was most likely stolen. Or if you're critical about that, you can at least see there's irregularities there, right?
Yeah.
And then you can also see the weaponization of the Biden administration, that the people who were pro-life got locked up, like these Catholics that are getting locked up, or even way back to COVID, where people were getting locked up for just having church services outside.
Yeah. While there's a strip club open down the road.
Right. Yeah. Or people trying to keep their gyms open,
Mm-hmm.
doing all sorts of stuff. Just everyday good people getting arrested. And then you got, the more severe stuff like January 6th, myself getting 18 years for something I didn't even do. And we can prove that now because our charge got thrown out. Like, why would they do that? Why would they throw out our charges? Why would this Court of Appeals of DC throw our charges out if everything was kosher? And so there's a lot of evidence, tons all the way back to COVID, and probably before that, obviously before that, but just a good marker is to start from COVID all the way to now. You can see that there is weaponization. People did have their lives completely destroyed. And we agreed on these things on the right. Yet the leaders of the right are saying, well, even though we do agree on these things and these things did happen, we don't agree to compensating our own voter base for what happened to them.
Right. It goes back to what I said. We were born because of the weakness of the right. And it is an issue. The rhinos, the whatever you want to call them, whatever the fucking name of the week is for them, they're a problem. They're wolves in they're wolves in sheep's clothing, and they're continuously they live in these areas where every 4 years they can make a commercial with them riding a horse with a fucking cowboy hat, shooting their AR-15, drinking their fucking beer, going, "I'm one of you, vote for me." And these fucking idiots show up to the polls because the commercial said America. And that's how Lindsey fucking Graham keeps winning his office, because our Republican constituents are fucking lazy.
Yeah. And it's a comfortable place to be. Like I said, they're not willing. There's a lot of people, that just aren't willing to get uncomfortable and say what's on everybody's mind. And we're getting that. What it is we're getting screwed. We've been getting screwed, and we've been voting for people that are screwing us, period. And, there's a huge movement going on right now, this anti-tax movement, filing exempt, just not paying your taxes. And it's an interesting conversation because so many people are doing it now, and it's like, you know what? If you're not going to care about us, and if you're going to step on us every second of the way, and we're going to send billions of dollars to Ukraine, billions of dollars to fund this other war. Well, what about all the oil in what's the country that took all their oil? Venezuela.
Venezuela.
We were like, oh, we're getting that oil. No, that all went to this war in the Middle East. And everybody was kind of probably waiting for that gas to start dropping after that. Everybody figured that out. But no, it went to some other country. And now we're seeing that this reimbursement fund to make everybody right, made whole to some degree. I would say to some degree. They're just saying no. So you need to send money to Ukraine, which who even knows what's going on there right now? Who even knows where that money really went?
Yeah.
We
know.
We know. But and then we have this issue with the Middle East. They're going after Lebanon now, and I mean, who knows when all that's going to end? And it's just a mess. It's a mess, and I think people just need to get real and say, you know what? Let's just stop playing the game. Let's just stop. This is a stupid game, and we're not even allowed to. We're like sitting on the bench. We're like called to be a part of this game, and we're not even allowed to play. And it's kind of getting to a point where it's like, I feel like I'm being cucked by like even engaging in the conversation of like, what if we just vote this guy in, everything will be fine. It's a degree of hopium that we know a lot about being in prison, and every 2 weeks, think we're going to be getting out. And it's just the reality sets in at some point. Is saying, you know what, we just got to ride this out, man. We got to ride it out and fix it when we can, But we can't keep playing the game like we've been playing.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's and it's possible the way things are going. People are very unhappy with this situation in Iran, and I get it. I completely understand. I think I have a little more faith than a lot of people, but that's deteriorating pretty fast. If I'm going to be completely honest, and
I mean, I've gotten to the point where it's like, well, are you pro-Israel? But I don't care about any of them. I don't, and I'm sorry if that hurts somebody's feeling. I don't care about what's going on in Iran, what's going on in Israel, what's going on in Pakistan. I mean, good luck to them. As long as I don't want to fund the war. I don't want to be funding, sending money over to kill kids and stuff like that. That's not what I signed. I didn't sign up for that. I didn't vote for that. I don't feel comfortable with that. I don't feel comfortable with the whole world seeing us fund that while we look over and see our neighbors struggling to pay bills for their kids. It's a problem. And so it kind of goes back to like, we need, especially men, we need to be men about this situation. We need to think about our kids. We need to think about our families and stop this whole conversation of like, well, the terror, there is no terrorist organization in the world that if we put our minds together, it would ever be a threat to us. If we focused all of our resources back here and built this country up, we could put a whole wall around the whole country with turrets on it.
But we have,
nobody would ever.
You're right. You're 100% right. We have one dilemma with all that.
Yeah.
Fucking liberals. Fucking liberals who want to import these fucking people here and spread their Sharia shit all over our country and pretend like none of this is an issue. The same ones that are allowing the UK to be swallowed whole as we speak, as we are, the guys like you, me, Enrique are getting the label already of the next Tommy Robinson that they're going to crush. And they're setting up the same platform that we're watching played out in Germany. And it's almost, God forbid, it's almost swallowed UK. This is liberalism. Progressive liberalism is destroying this planet.
Yeah. And, the labels and the boxes that people put things in, it's degeneracy at its finest. It's immoralism is what it is. And if you really think about what it is the left stands for, it's me all the time. I should be able to do whatever I want, but screw you. You can't do anything. So this isn't about self-accountability. This isn't about, taking care of your neighbor. This is about me, and it's destroying the world as we know it. Every first world country, every Western country right now is in the shitter. And unfortunately, it's really starting to affect our country as well. I think we're kind of like the last stand with all of it. And I mean, well, Ireland is pushing back pretty hard right now, as far as I've seen.
Yeah.
So
Northern
props to
Ireland.
them. Props to
Yeah.
them. I mean, the Irish are really showing up. And other countries are trying to too as well. And hopefully that, there can be a turnaround here. And I think that maybe that's possible. So I don't want to give up hope there. But as far as leadership goes, as far as politicians go, God, it's a crapshoot, man. Maybe we got some local guys that are good. Like, definitely got some local guys that I've been impressed by, but anybody on the federal, national level is just garbage.
Well, that's the thing is we actually do not have a politician problem in America. We have a fucking people problem. You look at Ian Omar and you look at AOC and Chuck Schumer and you look at those districts. Those representatives represent the people in their district quite adequately. Those are the people that show up to primaries and midterms and city council fucking elections, while Republicans sit home and watch the third rerun of a classic Yankees on a game on ESPN Classic. The representatives represent the shitbags in that district. Ian Omar perfectly represents the shitbags in her district. So we have a people problem in this country, and I don't
Yeah.
mind.
I mean,
I don't mind saying it.
anybody who looks like Lindsey Graham and goes to Disney World by himself with like some like little wand, like light up wand thing or whatever he was
Check his
waving.
fucking hard drive.
I mean, that guy has got to have a weird Google history. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't get it out of my head. Like, how is it that his voter base can see that and be like, that's totally normal? I thought you couldn't even go to certain places like that if you're a grown man by yourself. Like, I don't think you can go to like Legoland or something by
Because
yourself.
once every 4 years, he makes a fucking commercial, being a cowboy, being an American, waving the flag, and puts it on the fucking local TV stations in South Carolina. And the people, the Republicans, are that stupid. They see that commercial. He's an American. I know his name. That's all it's going to take for me. If I even show up to the fucking polls to vote for him, that's who I'm going to vote for because the commercial was cool. It ends
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I would love to see a commercial with Lindsey Graham, like getting on a ride with a bunch of kids on Disney World and be like, I love the kids, vote for me. You just, you know what I mean? Like, that's the vibes I get from this guy is just like, he
He's a
thinks,
weird one.
but because he's just doing his normal thing. That's weird. That's
It's
weird.
strange.
Okay. And this guy is like a huge part of, why we're in the war right now in the Middle East. So it's like, yeah, let's
Yeah,
bomb
he's a fucking
everybody.
hawk. He's a hawk. Yeah.
He's got no kids,
No
no
kids.
stakes in the game. It's just, one will drive you will get driven crazy thinking about how retarded a lot of this stuff is.
Yeah. It goes back. It's a people problem. It's the people in that Southern Carolina district that vote for Lindsey Graham because they're fucking idiots. They don't do the research. They don't care. The commercial was cool. That's it. Hook, line, and sinker.
Right. Yeah. So going back, see, the Proud Boys, we had exploded. We had the punch video. Everybody knows the punch video. That was a huge explosion in recruitment in 2018. And then we had the stand back, stand by, right? A huge explosion of recruitment then. Then we all got arrested. A lot of people left. But I kind of look at it as cutting the fat. A lot of the OGs stuck around. That's, what it really comes down to at the end of the day, this club is a sense of belonging. It's a brotherhood. It's our church. You get guys from all walks of life, and I've personally seen really awesome testimonies come from this club. And it by far is the furthest thing from perfect. Let me tell you, it's a lot of babysitting, a lot of idiots, just like any organization or club, you got, a lot of maintenance and a lot of problems here and there. But overall, you get a glimpse of a concentrated belonging of men who are like-minded. And I think that if everybody was being honest, that's something that, I'd love to see this country kind of develop within itself, that sense of belonging and pride and in, who we are as Americans and the shit we're not going to put up with. And, but enjoying the process of taking that stance, because there's a pride to standing up for this stuff. And there is a joy of being attacked and, being on the front line of a lot of these things. So you don't have to be serious all the time. You don't have to be upset that the world is on fire. Really, the best way to handle it is go at it with a smile on your face and, a middle finger to the enemy. Like, screw you. I'm not budging. And, we know a lot about that mentality. We've been through it. We've suffered through it, but we did it with a smile on our face. Barry, we got a lot of cool stories when we were locked up together, me and Barry. And, it
Hell
sucked.
yeah, we do.
It sucked, but man, we had some laughs. We had some good times. We made some solid memories in the worst possible place in America that you could be.
Yeah.
Which is surprising because I didn't even know that really existed until we were there, that you could be
Mhm.
treated like that as an American.
Yeah.
But our enemy is really quick to put us there. And it begs the question, if it's so easy for the government to put a large group of Americans in prison, but it's so difficult for them to write a check saying, "Hey, this is our bad." It speaks to our point even more. Like these people don't care about us. They don't care about
Yeah,
us.
you brought up a very interesting point that I think we could get the data from. How many of these fucking Republicans that are chimping out about us making this weaponization fund? How many of them have been screaming for how long that the election was stolen, that there was weaponization against the American people from the previous administration? How many of them have been saying that in their campaign slogans and when they're on the campaign trail to only now basically say, yeah, like you said, it was weaponized, but we don't think that we should do anything about it. And
Right.
yeah, I just it's a they're fucking pussies.
And let's like, what it begs the question, where does the government stand officially on what happened in January 6th?
Well, it's they're that's gonna be spread out in different and from different views from side to side. We know that, but what I do find interesting about this fund and them trying to cancel it or canceling it as it may be right now is that Trump's not going to take this laying down. He dropped a $10 billion suit to take less than $2 billion, right? So he, in his mind, that was a gesture, that was an olive branch just to make some things right. So what's going to happen now? All of us have pending lawsuits and tort claims against the government. So
Yep.
what's going to happen now is if they tell Trump you can't do this, he's going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to tell the DOJ don't fight these cases. And we really want that. I'd rather not have the fund. I want my court case to go through because I want my discovery. I want to show the American people exactly what happened.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people realize these cases. And you have to separate what happened on January 6th in the optics of what all these news outlets and all these politicians and crooked politicians tried to tell the world. Right. And they honed in and they zoomed in on this one guy who punched a cop in riot gear. And oh my gosh, and it's like, they made it look as bad as they could. But what they didn't show was everything after that for 4 years, how we were treated in solitary confinement for over a year. What happened at our trials?
Diesel
you know,
therapy.
They lied to witnesses to get them to cooperate against us. They made the witnesses lie on the stand, purge themselves. And we have now one of our old Proud Boys who worked for the government, their star witness, Jeremy Bertino. We have him coming out and admitting he perjured himself. He was lied to by Special Agent Nicole Miller. And this is a real thing. This is all documented.
Yeah.
And that was the key thing that got our all of our charges. I had been sentenced to 18 years for seditious conspiracy. The first time anybody's been charged with seditious conspiracy since the Civil War, for walking into a building for 30 minutes and walking out. And the star witness was compelled to lie and coached for months and months. And he was paid, and they gave him false information that kind of indicated that, we were trying to plan this thing. And it was all fabricated, all of it. So every American should be looking at this, whether you like us or not. I'm not saying you should like us. I'm not saying that you should think that the election was stolen. I'm saying the means in which the government came at us and the resources they threw at us, other Americans, just like you, was so out of this world. I mean, it's unprecedented to a level that hasn't even been documented before. Immeasurable. We don't even know how much they've spent on all of this on every defendant. I mean, just on our case alone, it was millions of dollars, millions.
Most expensive case in American history, longest and most expensive.
Yeah, for 5 guys, 5. And, the amount of time and resource, it was insane. And it was all based on a lie. All of it. So, like us, hate us, that's what happened. And they can do that, and they will do it, and continue to do it. So everybody should be advocating, not for us to get money, but really for this to become case law, that they cannot do this again. And we have a lot of good action right now in our case, our civil case here in Florida, that we filed our case out of. I mean, obviously we have a very strong case since the Court of Appeals in DC threw out our charges. So that is definitely implies that there was some fuckery going on there. So, long story short, not to talk about this too much, that's just one case out of what, 1700.
Yeah.
And it's littered. Every case is littered with this stuff. So especially the liberals who kind of, they pride themselves on prison reform and justice and stuff like that. And all of a sudden it's us. They're like, no, screw these guys. They don't deserve.
Yeah.
It's
the liberal party's
same
dead,
energy,
man.
man.
They're
Keep that same
fucking
energy.
communists. They're communists. That's all. It's the only way you can. Because if real liberals wouldn't put up with this, but they're gone.
Well, there's a few. We have Patty. There's one.
Like I said,
he's
they're
on
all
our
gone.
side.
They're all gone. No, Patty's all right, man. He's last of the dying breed for sure.
He is. He's rare. I don't. It's rare to find somebody that hates us but likes us.
Yeah, and that's all we ever asked.
Yeah, just hang out, man. We don't do you think we're offended if you don't like us? Who cares? Let's just hang out and have a beer and talk about it.
I think that's where a lot of the stigma came around us, is that nobody ever really tries to defend the shit. If you call us white supremacist, you call us racist, we don't give a fuck. We'll double down and say fuck you. I mean, the guys will throw a fucking Roman salute at you and say kiss their naked ass. I mean, it's just, they don't care. They don't care what you think about them.
Yeah. And, moving forward, a lot of what guys like us are doing with this network, shows and all this stuff. And, I know we talk about a lot of politics and Proud Boys and January 6th and everything like that, but it's guys like us that we're really focusing on trying to build infrastructure so that we can create more of a sense of belonging, not just for our club or anything like that, but for our communities. We've had conversations about building another, basically Boy Scouts that's not filled with a bunch of creepy dudes, teaching men how to be men again, and Christians what real Christianity is. It's not this soft, passive crap of just, love everybody and forgive everybody. And it's, God asks us to forgive our enemies, not his, and there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, if I've been watching the House of David, I don't know if anybody's seen this, but it's a great show. And there is so much violence in this. And if you've ever read any of the Bible, it's littered with violence. And it's just God refers to these individuals as men after his own heart, righteous and pure violence. And I'm not going out and saying advocating for violence, but I'm saying, there's a difference between being harmless and peaceful, right? A peaceful man chooses to be peaceful. A harmless man masks himself as peaceful, but he's harmless at the end of the day. It's immoral.
Yeah, well, real strength is the ability to be extremely violent, but have it under control.
Right. And to be extremely violent, one must know that he is extremely violent. I know I have the ability and capability of being violent, right? I know Barry does too. That doesn't mean that we're just going out there and being violent. But I think, we need to advocate to men. It's kind of like giving men permission and the knowledge in which to know how to use it properly and when. And that's what builds a strong infrastructure of a society or community or country or whatever your boundaries and borders are. If you don't have that, if you don't give the men in that parameters, the permission and the blueprint on how to effectively do it, then they're going to be castrated. And we're seeing a lot of that. And it's encouraged now. No, there's no reason for violence. Really, what era are you looking at? You know what I mean? There is no moment in history since the dawn of time that there has ever not been violence.
Well, until some 5-time convicted felon, illegal immigrant gets deported, then they all of a sudden they understand violence.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just super lacking in good leadership right now. And I think a lot of people are just hungry for, just like, I say it all the time. Everything that happened with the Proud Boys and why we exploded was because people were just so hungry for somebody to just lay some hands on these pieces of shit out there. And that's what it came down to. They just they needed to see somebody do something. And it'd be nice, we're not in a place to do that now because of everything that's happened. But it'd be nice to see a leader step up and say, you know what, screw this. We're not drawing this line here. We're going to draw it way back here. We're going to get rid of all this, and that's what it is. And people might say that's a dictator move, but
Well,
so be it.
you don't think there's anybody out there taking the bull by the horns and being leaders, and taking that role? I see a lot of videos on TikTok and stuff of people.
Like who?
I don't know. I mean, anybody out there maybe going to different rallies that
Are you
or
trying to?
events?
Are you being sarcastic?
No, I just didn't know maybe you had somebody in mind that was like going out there and going to different events and causing problems. I mean, being a leader.
I wouldn't say that's I wouldn't say that's good leadership. Just
Well,
again,
I guess what I'm trying to say is there's people that are out there that are currently right now, and I think they're trying to take some kind of proud boyish stance, and they're being more provocateurs than they
oh
are.
yeah,
They're not proving a political point. They're not helping a political process. They're fucking it up, and I don't think they're trying to represent a lot of us or all of us, and it's not indicative to how we see things, and it's not a good look.
yeah. And here's the thing: it's not that I'm saying don't go out and be active. It's just what it is sloppy. Don't be sloppy. Don't go out there just to get some views and likes because people some people will follow you, and those people, you're gonna get those people put in prison, easy. I mean, like we just said in past 30 minutes, they have done it for nothing, So don't give them a reason. If you're gonna go out there, be effective. If you're gonna be a protector, be a protector. Don't be an antagonist and a protector. You know what I mean? Because then you're
Can't be
asking
both.
problems. And yeah, we're just in a place now where we don't have the right leadership. We don't have anybody. All these different organizations raising tons of money, and everybody is just discombobulated and divided. Everybody wants to be the one who saves the world tomorrow, And the one thing the left has on us that we don't have is that community. That they raise money together well. They stick together, even though they're a bunch of idiots. They have more of a sense of belonging than we do. And even though it doesn't make sense, but there's so much pride over here on our side that we can't get anything done. We're so spread thin, and we have a lot of us who are just blind, and that culty mentality that we just have to follow this guy no matter what because he's a conservative. And it's exhausting. It really is. It's gotten to a point now where I'm just like, I think a lot of people are just done playing the game. A lot of people are advocating not to vote or even vote Democrat. There's all this division going on, and
That's retarded.
unnecessary.
I'm sorry.
Totally
That's just
unnecessary.
retarded.
Yeah, if you don't want to vote, fine, I get it. But voting for a Democrat,
Can you imagine? I mean, I can. I know you can. But for the people out there, and I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here. Imagine what would happen not if Kamala had won, where we would be at, or if they get power again. They're
Well,
not going to just let it go. It's going to be brutal.
I get the sentiment. I think a lot of guys that say, kind of go down that road, they're kind of thinking like, well, if we push things further, get things to a more extreme place and worse, the faster the revolution will happen. So, I understand the theory there. But I don't, I mean, look at Europe, look at all these other countries. I don't know if I have the faith that like just letting more crap in is going to be the solvent to this. But it's hard to say. Everything's upside down. So it really is hard to say what the answer is. I just don't think I can get myself to vote for a Democrat. I just don't think I could do it.
No, there's no fucking way. You see this,
It's
you've
just,
seen this guy.
you know what I
This
mean?
guy out of
Because it's like,
Texas, Tallarico, who was saying that in his church you can't you can't use a crown because it would symbolize that God was a man. He's not. He's non-binary. This is
oh
somebody
man,
running for Congress. Yeah. I mean, the Democrat Party is what it is. It's a Marxist fucking paella of communist bullshit, and really they, for the longest time, they have tried to sell us this whole just tolerate, just be a little bit tolerant. You know, it started with the gay marriage, and that's all we want. Now it's fucking, now you've got, it went from that all the way to transitioning kids to fucking Pride Month to, I mean, it just doesn't stop. It's never
never
just
ending.
an inch. It's never just an
Yeah.
inch, and we've capitulated for so long that I don't, you know, what we've given, I don't think we'll ever get any of it back. It's just straight Sodom and Gomorrah with these fucking people. That's their end agenda.
Yeah, and I'm tired of this argument of progress. Progress. I don't want progress. I don't want. I mean, if you took a show of hands of just like the general public, it was like, who'd be more interested in going in back into the past? How much more interesting things are you in? You know, would you be want to look at? Whether that's the future or the past, I think most people would choose the past. I mean, there's just so much more to offer. We can see. I mean, just the dollar was so much more valuable. You could be um, you could be a man who's got 4 kids and a wife and a home, and you'd be able to take care of everything with one job, one average blue collar job. You don't have that these days. So, like, is that progress? All these other things, all these other social issues have to take us to a back seat, or just go to another country with that crap. Because at the end of the day, people don't care about your pride flag or you celebrating out in the streets in June. Like, they want to take care of their families, dude. They want to be able to drive their car to work without having to break the budget. Like, that's it. People are simple. People want to live their lives and raise their families, and they want their kids to go to school and be educated and not programmed and brainwashed.
Yeah, they want to
You
just
know?
go to work and not be forced to use your fucking pronouns or lose their job.
Yeah, it's just, oh gosh, it's just so annoying, man. But the flip side of everything that's happening is, and I've talked to a lot of people about this. There is infrastructure being built now that is the antithesis of everything, all the woke bullshit. And I'm talking about sports, entertainment, music, all of it. Financial infrastructure. We got payment processors and banks, businesses that are tired of the woke ideology, and that, to me, and is the way that we fix a lot of this and reverse a lot of this.
I
It's
do agree.
stronger than a vote. Your money is, at the end of the day, the biggest vote. The more money you have, the more interest a politician is going to have in getting your vote. So, just like the left does, why do you think these idiots vote the way they do in Congress and the Senate? Is because they have donors. And what do you
Yep.
think? Those donors are getting exactly what they want. The reason why the country is the way it is and the world is because the donors have asked it to be this way. So if we become the donors, spend the next 15 years putting an infrastructure together that obviously everybody knows, if you're anybody with a head on your shoulders, the right and the conservatives make better money. We're the blue collar. We are the lifeblood of this country. So if we put our minds together and started building a financial infrastructure and economic infrastructure that doesn't care about the woke ideology and supports each other, then you're going to start to see a new breed of politicians come out that speaks to the interests of that, right? Because that's what they're going to be paid by. And at the end of the day, everybody's taking money. So let's play the game smarter than everybody else.
Yeah. Well, that cultural shift that you just brought up, I agree that you're 100% right. That's what it's going to take. And I think that's why before the left really launched this whole Marxist campaign on America, or at least got exposed for doing it, they had already preemptively started shaming or making shaming illegal. Like, you couldn't criticize the LGBT communities. You can't criticize the black community. You just got to be okay with the fact that 8% of the population commits 60 fucking percent of the violent crime. But the point is that shaming works. So that's why they try to stifle it preemptively, I believe. And so, getting back to what's culturally acceptable, it goes back to shaming. You shame these companies into not wanting to do this woke business and put rainbow flags on all their fucking products. You shame these companies and these ball players for making these stupid social justice warrior fucking stands. And that's how you bring people back into, okay, it is cool to be American, because all this identifying as a giraffe on a fucking Saturday bullshit is ridiculous.
Yeah, and you know what? Americans love the underdog story too. Like that's a good point. The shame, it really works, especially in groups of men. That's how we keep each other accountable. Like, dude, stop being an idiot. "Oh, what is it? Dude, don't be a freaking idiot. And you either rise to the occasion or you don't, and you either get the rewards of that. And I think if you had an underdog group or class of Americans that are struggling to get their shit together, and the rest of the country was like, hey, you need to get your shit together, you guys are being retards, and they rose to the occasion, everybody would be like, hey, hell yeah, great job, underdog of the year, rising to the occasion, and everybody would celebrate that. That's the American spirit right there. Is it going to happen? I don't know, but there's a pride in that follows the shame once you can overcome that problem that you're having. And I think every group, every class has that. The white, the white class has that. A lot of the white liberal women are just freaking all these Karens. They're a huge part of the problem. The way they vote.
Imagine how many less gay people we would have if there was that little 5-year-old striking a pose and dancing like to a RuPaul album, and someone just walked up and smacked the shit out of him and said, "Stop it, faggot." Boom, automatically. Oh shit!
I don't know if
you know what?
result in less.
I'm straight. The kid's straight now. All of a sudden.
Yeah, I don't. We can, yeah, I don't know if that probably just spark more rebellion from them. I think like, no, we're gonna be more gay now.
No, you smack the shit out of them. Stop being a little faggot. And, I bet 88% of them will stop.
Well, it all comes down to fathers being in the home and being good men at the end of the day, and that's obviously we're seeing the results of that lack thereof. But this was just a kick off my show and kind of get a little foundation started. We're going to talk about stuff. We're going to get raw. We're going to get real. We're going to have all sorts of guests here on the show as much as we can get. We got a lot of cool people coming up that we're working on right now that are going to be pretty interesting conversations. But I like to dive into fitness. I like to dive into kind of the taboo side of things that, the general medical industry does not want you to know, does not want you to learn about: parasites, heavy metals, and everything that's being sprayed in the air, in your water, in your food. We're going to get down and dirty into that and the ways and means in which you can recover from those things that you've been exposed to that have been giving you brain fog and cancers and illnesses. And we're going to dive into all that. We got a lot of guys and a lot of people here that have put a lot of their life into these things so that you can be a mentally, physically, and spiritually refined truth warrior, some might say. But, I'm glad to have you on here, Barry. It's been a pleasure. It was great, man. Follow him on his show. I can't read it right now. It's
got to get you some peptides.
Is it The American Rising or just American?
The American Rise on X.
Okay, The American Rise on X. You can follow me at _Nordean on X. That's pretty much my biggest thing right now. I'm going to work on my other social media platforms, but they have been a pain in the ass, let me tell you. Just to get back on X, it's taken me about a year. I don't know why. I don't think I'm that big of a deal. And, Enrique's got one, and freaking Jake Lang's got one with no problems. And look at what he's supposed to antagonist I've ever seen. Yeah. So I don't know why it's been so difficult, but I'm finally back on here. So everybody, thank you so much for your support and your love and your continuous, being involved with us, despite the whole world hating us. It's really been a fun privilege for me, and I know it's you as well, Barry. So
yes, sir.
All right, let's go ahead and end this. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to come back to you next Thursday, and I'm going to put some other stuff, reels and shows along the way, and we'll be on your feed. Thank you so much.
All right, we're out.
Load up on guns and bring your friends. It's fun to lose and to pretend she's overboard and self-assured. Oh no, I know a dirty word. Hello,
Prosecutors said Ethan Nordean was the undisputed leader of the group that day as they tried to prevent the peaceful transfer of power.
And FBI agents arrested Proud Boys former national chairman Enrique Tarrio at this home in Miami. By 2 this afternoon, he was in federal court.
Here we are now, entertainers. I feel stupid and contagious. Here